The year end is here and it's full of celebrations, holidays, and yes, tempting sales. So while discounts are hard to resist, what we'd like to know is how many of us start the new year with financial stress? Hello everybody and welcome to another insightful episode of Women Talk. I'm Anita Woo, your host for today. As the year winds down, what we find is that our expenses tend to go up, often faster than we expect. With festive sales and holiday promotions everywhere, it's easy to get swept up in the excitement and spend beyond our means. But does year-end shopping have to translate into New Year financial stress? Joining us today to shed light on smarter spending choices, we have with us in studio Pauline Teo, who is licensed financial planner by Bank Negara Malaysia and SC Malaysia, as well as an HRDC accredited trainer on financial literacy, as well as Nirmala Subramaniam, who is the head of Household Financial Education Department with the Credit Counselling and Debt Management Agency, AKPK. Welcome to the show, ladies. It's a pleasure to have you here with us.
Thank you for having us.
So let's kick it off with a bit of light banter and we all have our little quirks and our little guilty pleasures. So and this tends to come out especially not just throughout the year but especially towards the year end when there's all these crazy tempting sales. So maybe we could start with you, Pauline. Like, how do you go about allowing yourself a little festive splurge? Do you do that? And how do you go about kind of managing these guilty pleasures?
I would say all of us would definitely have our little guilty pleasures.
Yeah.
But I would say it's important to budget and, allocate yourself. I mean, after all, you need to pamper yourself from time to time.
Yeah.
So go for something which is within the budget and within your means.
Okay. What may I ask? What are the things that you tend to spend on? Shoes. You're a shoes girl. Yeah.
Of course, like food and desserts.
Yeah. Yeah.
Definitely.
And what about you, Nirmala?
I'm on clothes.
Yeah.
I get very weak with that. So one of the ways that I try, because we know we have to live within the means, we have to budget, but sometimes, the emotions doesn't work with the mind. The heart and mind doesn't go along. You shouldn't do that, but then you do that. So I tend to limit the amount of money that I have.
Okay.
So I would actually have I would move all the money aside so that only this amount is available for me.
Wow.
So that would help me to not spend more.
Yeah.
Or to not, because you have, one thing I realize is you have to identify your weak moment.
It's true.
So once you know what's your weak moment, then you put your action on what you want to do.
I like that. I like that very much. I mean, okay, Pauline, so you have worked with many clients in money management, specifically financial literacy. What have you noticed has been concerning spending habit, trends that you see that lots of people tend to fall into?
I would say 3 major ones from the clients that I have. So I think it's having to manage impromptu or sporadic kind of spending, which is not planned. The second thing, it's a lot of us would have problems like controlling ourselves. So we actually allow ourselves to overspend by swiping the credit card.
Impulse purchases.
Or even like online shopping. Nowadays, you even have the option of buy now, pay later. That's another major problem. And I think the biggest challenge for most of my clients is spending based on emotionally spending. Emotional spending.
Yeah. What is the main key advice that you'd say in terms of managing it?
You just have to discipline yourself and budget properly.
I like that very much. We'll be right back after this break to unpack more details into how to not overspend over this year end. Welcome back, still on Women Talk, and today we're talking about the year-end festive shopping, all the tempting sales, and also the pitfalls that come with it financially. With enticing sales, promotions, and everything else, what we'd like to know is how we should navigate the season wisely and what strategies we can employ to avoid financial pitfalls with our very expert guest in studio today. Let's start with you, Nirmala, for this one. Can we unpack the psychology, first of all, of why is it that we even tend to overspend on the year-end sales and festive shopping especially?
Definitely, you know, there's two factors here. One is your internal and one is the external factors, right? And when we talk about internal, it's a lot about emotions. It's the year end. We're happy. It's the happy mood, you know.
We've worked hard all year.
We've worked hard. So it's time to reward ourselves, right? So reward comes yet.
True. The time of bonus.
Yeah, it's the time of bonus for some of us.
Yeah.
But it's just the happy and jolly season around, and you know, we've worked for the whole year hard, and you know, it comes up that immediately, instantly, our mood is happy, or we have done with the year, we've achieved what we want. So it's time to reward ourselves, and that actually happy, overly happy, results to sometimes unwise decisions, you know. And of course, externally, you also have a lot of pressure, you know, the sales, the discounts, the year-end sales around. You just walk to any mall now, right? You know, even you just have to walk into any mall now and every store has a sale, right? And you know, the colors are vibrant in this, and you know, you get carried away because your emotions, and also again, like how Pauline touched earlier, easy access to loans, and you know, now you have easy access to repayment payment methods, like you know, you don't even need your wallet now, right? So just with your phone,
buy now, pay later,
and you know, you can instantly get anything you want with a delayed payment.
So I guess one of those strategies then is also kind of identifying the difference between what we need and what we want. Can you unpack more on this? How do we differentiate that?
It's, you know, everything seems to be a need then, you know, because, oh yeah, this is good, that is good. So one of the ways that we always say is delay the purchase if you're not sure. So you know you want to get that, it's so exciting, put it in your cart first. Or if you're going to a physical store, don't worry about the sales ending or not. Sales are all throughout all the year. Yeah. So all you have to do is delay the purchase, delay gratification, we call it. So think about it a day or two. I always say think about it for 3 days, you know.
Wow.
3 days, 3 nights.
That's a lot of discipline.
Yeah.
I usually just sleep on it one night.
You're not telling no. You're telling yourself later. So you play with your mind on that. So you don't say, I'm not buying it, you will buy it. So just say, tell yourself, I'm not doing it now, I'm doing it later. And in most cases, when we say do it later, we never do it. And another important thing is, actually sometimes we think we need it. Before you tend to go shopping, clean your cupboard first. So once you have delayed the purchase, go and look back at your closet, your shoes, your clothes or whatsoever that you purchase. And suddenly you might find something, hey, this is good, I've not used it, it's been hidden, you know. And you know, and then
happens.
you divert your mind to that.
Okay. Are there any other strategies that you would say to help avoid the pitfalls of falling into debt specifically? Because as you said, we're a bit trigger happy, we spend, and then what happens when you realize you're, you know, like close to pecah budget?
So we always say before you get yourself into debt, like if you're going to use your debt to buy that, use the 3P formula, which is use the purpose why you're buying it. If you're going to buy this for something that's productive, meaning that you're going to gain income from that, then you take up a loan. But if it's for lifestyle, no loans. So we don't want to encourage, or we want to say no loans for lifestyle. The second P is your payment affordability. So you ensure that all your repayment is below 40, that means your monthly repayment for loans are below 40% of your income. Right? So, and of course, the third P, we always say look at your payment records also, you know, so ensure that you have a good credit score. You need to check on this first before you commit, so that you are aware, you know, like when you want to go on a diet, you count your calories, you see whether, you know, have I eaten this much of calories
for the day? Can I afford this? Yeah,
so you want to see like, oh, what are the debts that I have already? You know, so that's a check. So do this before you commit, and that will help you like be aware, or do I really need this? Do I really need to do this now?
Thank you, Nirmala. Great tips. Pauline, and from your experience as well, how do people balance the joy of holiday shopping with financial discipline in your perspective? And more importantly, with the clients that you've had, what happens when you have clients who are already maxed out on their budget or close, already in debt?
Yeah.
What would you say?
Okay,
in
I would
this
say
season?
a few things that you can actually really start to think about. And I think as the year comes to an end, it's very important for us to start planning ahead for next year. And it always comes with goal setting. And by having very clear goals and clarity in terms of what are your short-term goals, your mid-term goals, as well as your long-term goals that you really want to achieve in your life. And I think when we talk about resources, the income that we have is very much something that we know how much we're going to be getting on a monthly basis. So it's also very important for us to look at these goals that we have and start planning within this landscape. Within our means. Okay, and I think it's very important because sometimes I find a lot of us, it's due to the instant gratification that we want it to be right now, and buy things without thinking about how is this going to impact, for example, my own personal retirement? Will this be something that will kind of delay because I can't actually, I've not started planning for my retirement other than having my KWSP, my EPF account, right?
Yes.
And I think this is something that we need to start thinking deeper and seeing how we can actually do that. So I think as long as we spend within the budget, we shouldn't have any major issues or take up unnecessary loans, right, in that sense, or unnecessary debts. And I think another very important thing that I do for my clients is that to understand your own personal money psychology as well.
Right.
Because there's many different profiles out there. So if you actually know, for example, I used to be a spender, and by knowing this particular profile, there's pros and cons to spending. Of course, when I'm happy, I'll spend more, or if I'm depressed, I also tend to spend more.
Right.
So once you're actually aware of this, then you can actually control, your spending habits a little bit better and kind of like plan around it.
Right.
Yeah.
Wow, okay. These are fantastic, fantastic insights. Thank you very much. Do stay tuned, as when we're back, we're going to unpeel more of these tips on how to manage your budget over this year end. Stay tuned. Welcome back. Now, as we know, year-end spending and year-end sales is definitely a good time to reward yourself and also to snag some good deals. But we do also have to be mindful of our budget and to make sure that we don't fall into debt and avoid unnecessary financial New Year stress. In order to do so, there are many resources out there, and one very good free financial education website is ASNB Academy at www.asnbacademy.com.my, developed by none other than Amanah Saham Nasional Berhad. It's a great place to start if you don't know where to begin. It offers a wealth of knowledge on financial planning to help you to achieve your financial goals, which is so key, especially in this time of year. We're continuing the discussion today on the year-end sales, the holiday hustle, how to budget and how to manage our short-term, mid-term, long-term goals. So, Pauline, to continue in what you mentioned earlier about being self-aware and what your emotional spending triggers might be, can you tell us how we can create a more realistic budget, especially for those who know that it's kind of their fixed costs as well over the year end, if they have large families or definitely school holidays to plan for, or lots of friends to shop for example. How do we do that without compromising your financial well-being?
I think the great thing about Malaysia is that every month seems to be here and there we've got holidays. And of course, we do have, our plans to spend and treat friends and family members as well. So I think the thing that we can really do is when you plan ahead, you can already kind of identify meaningful gifts. And sometimes gifts don't have to be very expensive.
Yes.
It could be gestures, maybe taking the family out, going to nature walks.
Cooking a meal.
Yeah, cooking a meal, everyone loves to eat. So food is always definitely a pleasure, to have a family and friends together.
Yeah.
So sometimes the gifts that we give to each other doesn't have to be very expensive, or really costly. But I think it's also the thought that counts.
Yeah.
But I think that's also a major issue that I find amongst Malaysians is that we don't really have this habit of comfortably sharing and talking to each other about this topic of money.
It's true.
So I think that's the other thing that we really need to be mindful and break through this as well.
Yeah, break the taboo.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, I agree. Okay, thank you, Pauline. Nirmala, can you tell us about how the tendency to overspend, especially during these festive sales, tends to affect your long-term financial goals, which sometimes we may not think about?
Yeah, it's definitely going to delay when we're going to achieve it, because if we keep using up our savings, right, eventually we will delay, right? So you wanted to probably you're saving to go for a holiday, or you're saving to buy a car, or you're saving to buy this house, right? So these are all your goals, and also maybe you're saving for your retirement, definitely, right? And eventually, as you start using up these funds, and now with easy access to your retirement funds as well, it tends to reduce the amount that you have in your saving. You may not realize it now. It seems big, but it's not going to seem that big then, you know.
Especially when you take inflation into account.
So eventually you will have your goals delayed. You know, you probably can't live what you wanted to then, right? And also, of course, it increases your debt. This is the other thing that kills your financial plan. So one of the issues, the risk to your proper financial planning is debt, you know, liabilities. So if it gets way off, you know, than what you can afford, then definitely it's going to cause not just financial burden, but mental stress as well.
Absolutely.
So you're going to be very ill, you know. It will also affect your health, you know, in a way, right?
Yeah.
And of course, it disrupts emergencies, right? So what if there is an emergency and you have used up your savings here? So eventually, you know, when you never know when emergencies happen, right? And you know, it's something that you don't plan for. That's why we call it emergencies, right? So then what are you going to do? So that's where people go back to debts. They go back resorting to debt. And what is even more scary is, because it's emergency, I need the money now, and they go towards the unlicensed money lender, and that could even create an even bigger problem for you. You
That
know,
is
you're getting
stress on
yourself
all
into a hole
levels.
that, you know, is so hard to come out. So we need to know these consequences.
So can you share some strategies in that sense of how to make sure that your savings aren't being sacrificed, or to buffer enough savings in order to have more long-term goals met?
Yeah, definitely do not use your investment funds, like, you know, you've invested in ASB and, you know, other investments. Do not withdraw them for your impulse purchases, your holidaying, you know, and things like that. Do not go for that amount, because it's tempting.
Yes.
Especially people tend to withdraw the dividends paid.
Yeah.
Don't withdraw the dividend. The more you remain it there,
you should let
it snowballs.
Yeah, snowball.
And you want that. Don't snowball on your credit card, snowball on that, you know.
Compound interest, use it.
Compound interest.
That's
It's a
true.
double-edged sword, you call it, right? So use it in your investment. Let the investment stay there. Don't go. Every year people have plans for the dividend too, you know. Avoid those kind of plans. So when the dividends are announced, you know, people already have plans. No, let it stay, and then it will grow further. And of course, I would say that revisit your financial goals. Remember things that it's there, you know it's there, you got to keep it visible to you. So have your pictures or have
So
your
it's
dream
like,
board.
These are usually in terms of big purchases, right? Purchasing
Yes,
a house.
have that image and visit that area so that it keeps reminds you. I have it on my screensaver in my phone of what I want. So every time I click, so I know, oh yeah, I want that. So I'm not going to spend
You're
yet.
reminded.
You know, so you need these nudges to yourself.
Right, and this is not just lifestyle, not like shoes, right? I mean, obviously, just to clarify, these are
your
long-term
nudges, long-term
yes.
goals. And also keep educating yourself. So your social, you need nudges because you're human. You will tend to forget, you get carried away, you know, with things. So you need these nudges. So in your social media, like pages of Bank Negara, PNB, you like pages of ASNB, they have their academy, right?
Yeah.
Go through it. And then ASNB Academy, you have AKPK's page, you have FAN's page, Financial Education Network's page. So you keep all this in your social media and they will tend to nudge you from time to time. So keep reminding yourself that, hey, I need to be careful of this, I need to be aware, hey, this is here. Probably you would now shift your money from spending to investing.
Yes.
And that would help you.
There's a tip on that as well, isn't it? Where there's some people who know that they're quite weak in their fiscal discipline, so they automate a portion of it to automate their savings.
That's the best way to save. Don't trust yourself in actually moving it. Automating is one of the best ways to save, and save before you spend. Auto labor with ASNB, so you can actually start to invest automatically. It's so easy as it is to spend, it's even easier now to save. So why not we shift, from spending to savings here?
That's very, very important. Maybe you could give, personally, from what you've seen with loved ones and friends, just a word of advice in terms of how to manage your debt wisely, especially if those who are already caught up in debt.
I would definitely say I have this acronym of PAUSE. So PAUSE in the sense that if you are going to spend, pause first, reflect, take breath, breathe, right?
Walk around.
Walk around, breathe, right? And the AP is pause, right? And reflect. A is acknowledge your emotions. So you need to know if you're overly happy, don't make a decision. If you're overly sad, like how Pauline said, don't make a decision. Don't make the decision. Acknowledge that your emotions are exciting now.
Yeah.
No, it's like bursting with excitement.
Right.
Acknowledge, no, don't. And then the U, I would say, is understand the impact. So you've got to remind yourself, if I do this now, I'm going to be affected with that, right? So the consequences of it. And S, so you're there, you know that, shift your focus. So instead of being there, move yourself away, right? So you got to move yourself. So when you move yourself, your emotions would change.
Physically move
yourself, move yourself, right? Physically, even you're scrolling and you're thinking of buying that, put the phone aside. Shift your focus, probably go and do some cleaning and then you come back. Yeah. You probably have forgotten about it. Don't make the decision. And E is definitely evaluate alternatives. There are many other alternatives around, so you would do that. So take this moment, remind yourself, do not touch your savings, do not touch your investments. These are not for impulse purchase.
Yes.
These are strictly for either emergencies and your future goals. So remind yourself that you only spend you're allowed to spend.
But spend within your means.
Yeah, whatever extra.
Whatever
extras that you have, that is for you. You spend, so you plan it well accordingly.
I would say, very importantly, with money, make that decision intentional. Okay, don't just spend for the sake of spending, but always ask yourself, right? Like, what am I spending for? How is this going to benefit me? And I think, more importantly, for every one of us, is to actually increase our literacy level as well.
Agreed.
So that, we are more empowered to make the right decisions, the wise decision, before, we actually part with that money.
Yeah.
Otherwise, once the money goes or, we get ourselves in debt, it's very difficult in order to recover, or actually it takes a long time.
It's true.
When you take money from your EPF, for example, it takes a really mighty long time in order to save all over again.
Indeed.
So especially for those people who are closer to retirement, or you have children that's going for education, think again in terms of, what are some of the ways we can do to make sure that planning is done very well and the money is just ready when you need it.
Yes. That's fantastic. Thank you so much, Pauline, as well as Nirmala, for being on the show with us and all your expert insights. To recap, by setting a budget, planning your shopping, staying disciplined, you can still enjoy the festive season without falling into debt. And in fact, you can start the new year without that financial stress, and with better planning, in fact, it's going to be a good year. Focus on needs over wants. Avoid impulsive spending. Spend within your means and keep your financial goals short, mid, and long term in mind. And the most important thing as well is do not create new debt. Do not withdraw your emergency funds, especially from your investments in ASB, and just for short-term gratification. So with that, thank you once again very much, Nirmala, as well as Pauline, for being with us on the show. And we hope that this is the beginning to a good holiday hustle, wise spending, and an enjoyable festive season for us all.
Thank you so much.
Thank you so much.
If you've enjoyed our show today or have something to say or some concerns to voice out even, engage with us on our social media pages at Women Talk TV3 and at TV3 Malaysia.